Number one, forget overtiredness. Not to the point where they're really upset, but tiredness is good because it will help you sleep. But also looking at your own individual child. If you've got a child or baby and sleep is hard right now, just, trust your instincts a little bit. Do what feels right for you at this point in time. And if you want to work on sleep and improve things, then that is valid. And it's okay to want to sleep better yourself as well as for your baby. Your parenting shouldn't be judged by how your baby's sleeping. You're still a good parent even if your baby doesn't sleep well.
Welcome to the Choice Space podcast. I'm Dr. Lee David, GP, CBT therapist and author. Today, we're talking about sleep in babies and in parents. Broken sleep is a normal part of life with a new baby, but when it continues, fatigue and exhaustion can start to take a real toll on well-being. And for some, ongoing sleep problems may also be linked to perinatal illness, such as depression or anxiety. We know that sleep and emotional health are closely connected. Fatigue makes it harder to manage stress and worry, while low mood and anxiety can make sleep even more difficult. And when we're exhausted, it's easy to fall into self-blame or unhelpful comparisons, believing that everyone else is coping better than we are. But there is hope. Sleep can improve with understanding, support, and a few small changes, whether that's rest, self-care, or finding a rhythm or routine for sleep that fits your family. Both mood and sleep can begin to recover. Today, I'm joined by Caroline from The Sleep Remedy, who helps families find practical, compassionate ways to improve sleep without pressure, guilt, or unrealistic expectations.
Thank you for having me. I'm an infant sleep coach. I work with families of babies from around 4 months old up to, even as old as 12 years of age. Sleep can be a challenge in all sorts of different shapes and forms across childhood. So I have undertaken 3 sleep coach courses, and I'm also in the middle of an OCN level 6 because I'm absolutely obsessed with knowing everything I can about sleep.
Can you tell us a bit about your own experiences of sleep as a parent, and then what led to you becoming so interested in sleep?
I'm a first-time mum to twins, and I have a third as well, a little boy. My twins are 7 now, but back in what I call the trenches, when they were under a year old, it was really tough, and sleep was very broken. Probably I was averaging around 4 hours a night for about the first year, broken sleep. And it really does take its toll. It's been a big factor in my life in one shape or form. And then I had my third, and again, you go straight back to the trenches. And I discovered the topic of sleep. And it just made me realize that actually I could learn about this and help others not to feel the way that I felt, to avoid the pitfalls and to find other ways to exist that are better with sleep.
Did you find some things that did work for you as a family? Was that part of your journey towards the sleep coaching? Was it around some of the exploration and discovery about what worked for you and what didn't work for you as a family?
That's a really good question. And it's yes and no. Now I've been trained as a sleep coach. I know I did a lot of things that I probably wouldn't recommend to parents in order to optimize sleep. But I also did take away some things that I do advise parents now. So with the twins, I think the best way to describe it is I felt like I was in a pressure cooker environment every day, being in the house with them, double crying, trying to handle double feeding, double nap times. I found that actually allowing myself to go outside every day, I would take a walk every day, rain or shine, and let them nap in the pram for at least 1 nap a day to give me flexibility. I didn't want to be a prisoner in that pressure cooker. I did have a lot of what I call nap anxiety, where I was always panicking about the next sleep situation, how to get them both in sync and make sure I could manage them both together. Having that pram nap was my escape, and it was calming. I felt so much more relieved and happier once I was outside and they would sleep in the pram. So that was something I recommend to parents now that don't feel you have to stay indoors. Out and about is a really important thing for your own mental health. I think alongside that, I sleep trained my twins as well. And that was life-changing. And I don't say that lightly. It was life-changing for me because I was rocking them both. When they got to 7 months old, they were quite decent-sized little twins. I didn't know how to put one down and then the other down, in their cots. I knew it wasn't sustainable, but I was thinking it's working for now. It's working for now. And it wasn't anymore. And for me personally, I felt like I was in a place where the only choice I had that I could work out how to manage the twins on my own was to sleep train. It changed my life because they would sleep for longer, they would sleep better overnight, and I became myself again. I stopped all that awful broken sleep and the way it takes a toll on you. It started to dissipate.
So there's a few things there that are really important to pick up on. One of them is the fatigue and exhaustion when we're not getting enough sleep can mean we might fall into habits that we know are not really sustainable in the long term, but it also feels perhaps too exhausting to try and make changes because there's a fear that maybe things will get worse. I'm exhausted, I'm tired. And so it's giving permission to recognize that it is really hard to make change, but actually sometimes it sounds like for you, making a significant change was really important and life just improved a little bit. But I'm also hearing there's something about choice, and actually what works for one family won't be identical for every family. So it's trying to maintain something that's workable, but also give people choice about how they wish to parent and their own personal choices.
My belief is that you shouldn't feel pressured to do anything that doesn't feel right for you and for your family. So you may find that contact napping, that might work for you, and you shouldn't feel bad for that. You should feel like you have that choice, that you can do what's right for you. It isn't that there's a rule out there that says your baby must always sleep in a certain way. I feel like, there's a lot of opinions out there, but, you shouldn't let those external opinions force you into a certain way of feeling about yourself and about your worthiness. You can parent the way you want to parent.
Definitely. You're very motivated by bringing research and evidence base around how you approach sleep. What do you see of some of the most important research evidence at the moment that is helpful in the work that you're doing?
There is a lot of research in the sleep space. It is still an under-researched topic. There are new pieces of research coming out and being undertaken. And what we know now is that sleep is not just for rest. When we sleep, our bodies are arguably more busy than when we're awake. So everything that we're doing in the day, our bodies, when we go into sleep, will be processing emotions and experiences in our memories. We'll lift our short-term memory to our long-term memory in our brains. We're also physically recovering. There's lots of really good research about how our immunity can be improved through sleep, our mental health. So there are connections being made between our rational thoughts and our emotions, which if we don't sleep well, especially as parents, we become much more short-tempered. And there's a reason. It's because the connections aren't happening in our brain because we haven't broken sleep. So there's lots of really interesting research around the benefits of sleep for our health. There is a really good reason why we sleep. You'll see lots of very, very opposing views when it comes to how to handle infant sleep, whether you sleep train or whether you respond to every cry, etc., etc. But when you look at the research, the evidence from scientific research papers will show no evidence of harm when it comes to sleep training. There have been research articles that have found, in some cases, an improved attachment between parent and child after sleep training because you are able to respond to your baby's needs better when you know clearly what those needs are. If your baby's waking every hour of the night because they don't know how to self-settle, how do you know? Are they hungry? Are they in pain? Are they perhaps not tired enough? If they can self-settle, they won't wake unless there is a need, such as feeding, or maybe they're in pain. I would say those two areas for me are my key ones. It's about the benefits and the importance of sleep. It's important, not just a nice to have. It's a need.
So there's a couple of things that really stand out for me there. And one of them is about how important sleep is. Just thinking about sleep architecture, so the different stages of sleep. We know that if we have fairly solid sleep through the night, we'll progress through cycles at different levels. They all have a very important role, and we're learning more about some of the different areas and how they impact us in terms of emotional well-being, processing difficult events, making sense of our experiences, and preparing us for the next day. It really stands out to me then why broken sleep in particular, even more than perhaps losing a chunk of sleep, is really problematic. When you have frequently broken sleep, so it's in and out, in and out, in and out, you're going to be consistently missing some of those layers of sleep, which can be cumulative and cause problems in the longer term.
You could argue that when it comes to working on infant sleep to improve things, what you're doing is more for benefit of the parents, because as you say, our sleep architecture is such that the first half of the night is predominantly deep sleep, and your body prioritizes physical restorative sleep. This is very common for babies that aren't able to self-settle. They will sleep solidly for about 3 hours, and then they will start to wake every hour to an hour and a half, which is at the end of each sleep cycle, because they're going to have that nice solid deep sleep around 3 hours-ish, and then they go into their REM lighter phase of sleep, so they can drift out of their sleep cycles. It's more easy for them to wake from that. If we think about that sleep architecture, when we start being ready for bed, our deep sleep, we have the same architecture. So our deep sleep needs about 3-4 hours. But that's when our baby starts to wake, because they're coming out of their deep sleep. So for our physical restorative sleep, that's being disrupted because we're programmed to wake when our baby wakes to meet their needs. So actually, we're probably feeling worse in the morning than our babies are, because we all wake after sleep cycles anyway. We know how to self-settle. We know how to just go back to sleep. So we don't even know that we've woken, really. It's like a little micro-waking. But for babies that can't self-settle, they wake more fully, and they look for the conditions in which they went to sleep in. So if that's rocking, feeding, bouncing, patting, if they've formed that association that says, I need that to get back to sleep, then that is what will keep them calling out for you overnight.
And I think there's something very powerful about parents who really need permission to feel my sleep matters, that my well-being is important, and actually making choices that enable me to manage my fatigue, to have at least some periods of unbroken sleep, will really support me to be that loving parent that I want to be present, to be able to be engaged when we're all awake. And so actually it's not competitive. We can really prioritize attachment and having great relationships within our family. And we can also think about ways that support sleep for everybody.
When we look at what the root of attachment theory is, it's not about being perfect. Attachment is actually formed over years of a child's life. So if you think about a moment of sleep training, which might be a week's worth of giving your baby space, we're not saying don't meet their needs if they're hungry, if they need changing and all those kind of things. It's allowing them a little bit of space in which they might express their displeasure at you not rocking them to sleep, but they're not in any harm. They have you, a parent, a secure base, giving them what attachment requires. The fact that there may be a small amount of unhappiness where a parent isn't going to stop the tears, that's not enough for attachment to be severed. Attachment is a process of rupture and repair. So we all have difficult moments, which we are allowed to process and express ourselves. But having that loving, secure base that can give you that security and sense of calm, and that can all be done through sleep training, being a regular pattern, arguably enhancing the attachment bond, because there is rupture and repair. That repair is that loving, consistent parent. We're not talking about leaving a baby crying all day. We're talking about a bedtime settling moment and maybe a couple of wake-ups overnight. And then through the rest of that day, parent is being a loving parent, meeting all of those needs.
Can you give a little bit of a summary on some of the key parts of sleep training to help to really make sense of it, so that it perhaps does reduce some of the fear? Because I think sometimes the term sleep training is quite scary.
For babies, sleep training, you probably have heard the term cry it out. The extinction method is where you shut the door and you just walk away for the rest of that night. That's not something that I recommend. There are, I believe, more effective ways that allow that parent to feel better about that process. But, when we talk about the research is all pretty much conducted on extinction method. So my view is that if those have shown no evidence of harm, then the approaches that I use, where there is an element of parental presence, even less chance of there being harm. You have a graduated extinction, which is what you might know of as controlled crying. And that's where you would go in and out of the room at intervals. I prefer a method called the sleep wave, which is still controlled crying in that sense, but it's a very regular interval. I think that works really well because it gives a baby space to focus on trying to get to sleep rather than focusing on their parents. And I try to minimize crying, not because I think it's harmful, but I try to minimize crying because I want a parent to feel that they can do this, that it's something they can see through. Because if you're going to start sleep training, you have to see it through. You have to be consistent. Consistency is key for them to learn as quickly as possible, and that minimizes the tears. Where we get onto what you might hear of as gentle end of sleep training, you've got a gradual retreat type of approach where the parent is completely present the whole time and they would just edge out of the room, maybe a foot every couple of days. Now, that doesn't mean no tears. We have to kind of manage what our expectations mean here. We're gentle because you're going to stay in the room, but that baby's still going to cry. And that's okay. If you're sleep training a baby and giving them a new way to fall asleep when they're quite happy feeding to sleep and they're quite happy waking up every hour overnight for another little feed to sleep, they're not going to like being given that chance to learn how to do it themselves. That doesn't mean it's harmful, though. In the same way that a toddler might not like that you say no to chocolate for breakfast. You do it out of love because you want them to keep their teeth and you want them to be healthy. The problem with sleep training is because it goes against our instincts to hear our baby cry and allow our baby to cry, because that in our minds equates danger, harm, something's bad is happening that I need to stop. There's a really good research study that shows that anxious parents who do try to stop crying at all times in their parenting journey, their babies struggle with sleep training more. Their babies are more anxious because they're never allowed a chance to express and deal with an uncomfortable situation. We shouldn't be suppressing our emotions. All emotions are okay. They all have their place. And I understand why parents are anxious about hearing their baby cry for those reasons, survival reasons, but actually it can help them to build resilience, and babies that are allowed a bit of space to cry here and there find that sleep training journey easier.
So there's something here about learning to recognize our baby's emotions and our own emotions as perhaps as a message, but not as one that is a default. We need to stop that emotion immediately. But I think there is some evidence that sleep difficulties are often more significant in parents who have perinatal illness, so perinatal depression or anxiety, for example, and our own mood has as much, if not more, impact on our baby's sleep as our patterns and routines. It may be that we feel when the baby cries, it means I'm a bad mother, I'm really failing, or maybe there's something really terrifying, maybe the baby's really at risk. And obviously it's all coming out of love. It's this real value about caring about our babies and wanting them to be well and wanting to do the best job we can as a mother. And yet we put ourselves under such pressure that actually sometimes that can get in the way of enabling our children to have this range of emotions, which is actually healthy. It's not healthy to be upset for prolonged periods of time, yes, but trying to eliminate emotion is also unhealthy. This is the choice pause, a short 2 to 3 minute tool you'll hear in every episode. Each time with something different to help you pause, notice, and choose your next step. These are drawn from my books and online wellbeing courses, and you can find more details in the show notes. Today's pause is the rest and kindness pause. Take a slow breath in and a longer breath out. Notice the weight of your body being supported right now by the chair, the floor, the world beneath you. You don't need to do anything or fix anything right now. Just allow your breath to settle into its own comfortable rhythm. Rest doesn't always mean sleep. Sometimes it's simply pausing, breathing, and letting your body know you're safe enough to soften for a second. If you notice any tension in your shoulders or jaw, just let it go. If your thoughts are busy, that's okay. Just notice them and gently bring your attention back to the next breath. Now bring a hand to your heart or to your stomach, wherever feels most comfortable. Silently say to yourself, I'm doing the best with what I have today. I can be kind to myself in this moment. Notice if anything shifts inside you when you meet tiredness with care rather than criticism. Even a short pause like this can begin to restore balance. A reminder that rest and self-kindness are both a form of strength. Take one final steady breath and carry that quiet permission to rest and take care of yourself into whatever comes next today. When someone is struggling a lot with sleep, then that would always be a flag for me to investigate, could this be perinatal illness as well? Is there something else here that we need to be thinking about to support mum or dad in terms of their mental health and well-being? Is that something that you've seen?
Definitely. Yeah. If you're struggling mentally post birth, which is really common, sleep is really, really bad because your newborn's waking up all the time. That makes it worse. So there's a link around your mental health and how sleep can assist you in getting you to a better place mentally. But if you're already in quite a difficult situation mentally, you may not be ready to take on that job of working on sleep, because it is going to ask of you to hear your baby cry, things that may trigger you and you not feel ready for. As much as people really, really, really want sleep and want to get everything sorted, I don't want to put them into a situation where they can't follow that through, because that doesn't feel good for anybody. It's not great for the baby. It's not great for the parents, because your mental health is important. And as much as sleep is needed to help you with that, if you're not ready, it's better to wait. It's better to get some support where you can, get somebody to hold your baby for a bit where you go take a nap. I have a lot of parents where dad goes and sleeps in a spare room because they're working. But in my view, especially if the baby is bottle fed, dad needs to help out through the night, because even though mum's at home, she's working. Babies are not easy. Even if you just navigate half of the night each, or dad takes baby once baby's up for the day at 6 and you have a quick lie in before he goes to work. I know that in different situations, it's not always possible, but I think a lot of the time mothers very naturally just say, oh, I'm at home, so I'll do the nights because dad's working. But actually it's tough, and you need help. Babies are hard work.
So seeking support and a shared approach to parenting that prioritizes well-being for everybody. And sometimes it's perhaps mum who then her needs are missed in some ways. Dad's doing his best, but maybe working. So mum's trying to hold it together for everybody. And I see this actually at lots of ages of the family, where mums take quite a pivotal role, and often caring for other generations as well, actually. Maybe parents who are older, or, there may be other things. So there's a lot of complexity around what women are holding. I would really want to reinforce, for me, mum's mental health or carer mental health is really fundamental. And then, as you say, when you're in a better space emotionally, you may well then be better resourced to be able to approach sleep in a much more proactive way with emotional strength. Because what you don't want to do is go into sleep training and feel like it breaks you emotionally because it just is too distressing to hear your baby crying.
Absolutely. I don't want that for anybody. You're better off just waiting and trying to seek support where you can from your village, and then work on it properly when you're ready.
The common sleep myths that you find to be really unhelpful when you're approaching sleep?
Yeah, so there's a massive one which I talk about it quite a lot, which is overtiredness. It is just the biggest myth. I mean, if you leave a baby and don't get them down to sleep when they need to, they will become upset. Yes, that is overtiredness. It's dysregulation, essentially. Overtiredness does not disrupt your baby's night. It does not disrupt your baby's sleep. You might hear the term sleep breeds sleep. Get them napping loads, get them to bed early, aim for 12 hours overnight. And it's not rooted in science. There is zero evidence. There is not one research paper that says that overtiredness is linked to disrupted sleep. And it doesn't bear out in my experience either. It's a cause of anxiety, hugely. I talk about sleep pressure because that's the scientific process that is happening. It's a build-up of sleep drive, essentially. The sleep pressure needs to be right for your baby. So there's generic wake windows, generic guidance that says just keep getting sleep into them. That is going to disrupt your baby's sleep. It will cause short naps. It will cause a lengthy wake up overnight or lengthy protest before bed, or a pre 6 a.m. start to your day. Lack of sleep pressure. If you haven't filled the tank, your baby's own unique little sized tank, full to the brim with sleep pressure, kept them awake long enough to be genuinely tired, then it's going to be half full and you're going to have a problem. That will come out in all those ways I explained. So overtiredness can go in the bin, please.
Do you think that partly relates to babies having different amounts of sleep that they might need? So it's trying to go to a routine that says in the book that this is how much napping they should have and how much sleep they need. And actually, my baby doesn't like that routine, and actually it doesn't work for them. So is it something about trying to understand and listen to the cues of what our baby really does need?
It makes sense. I know, and we all want a nice, easy go-to set of rules, don't we? So that we can manage our babies. But they're only based on averages. They're based on generic wake windows. We're not generic. We're all unique. Our babies are all unique. We all have our own sleep need. So I work in 24-hour sleep. What I do when I work with a client is I ask them to log all the wake times and sleep times. That will give me an average of that individual baby. How much are they sleeping in 24 hours? And then I portion that with, okay, how much on average are they sleeping overnight currently and the day? Now, if a 7-month-old is sleeping 9 hours overnight, but 4 hours in the day, that says to me straight away, too much day sleep. We need to take some of that day sleep and put that into the night. So we've got to jiggle that around a bit. Those generic guides, while they might suit some babies, they usually err on the side of caution. They usually work for more high sleep need babies, those babies that need more sleep and sleep generally a lot easier. I would say 99% of my clients have low sleep need babies that those generic guides do not work for. So they'll be trying to put their 10-month-old down for their first nap after 2.5 hours awake, when that baby actually needs more like 4 hours awake. They'll think, oh my goodness, 4 hours is far too long for my baby to be awake. They'll get overtired and that would be really harmful and damaging. I need to get as much sleep in them as possible. But that baby needs less. Night sleep is king. I always say night sleep is king. That's where the really good restorative sleep happens. Naps, they are important, but not to the detriment of the night. And if you get the balance of naps wrong, that will disrupt the night. So I'm all for protecting night sleep and just getting the balance right, getting that 24-hour sleep balance right.
I see this in adults too. I think people see ideas about how much sleep we need and they often will compare themselves to the upper end of what the guidelines say and start comparing themselves saying, well, I really need 9 to 10 hours sleep every single night. And then they aren't able to actually sleep that much and feel very stressed and feel like they're failing or that they're never going to cope. And it creates a lot of anxiety. And the whole loop around anxiety about how much sleep am I getting then feeds itself. And so it really is about recognizing how much sleep do I need, really, not necessarily on my best ever night, but actually on an average basis, on a day by day basis in real life. What's a realistic sleep goal? I think that's really important as well, because people often say, oh, well, I had a really good night at the weekend and I slept for 10 hours. And I think if I could do that every day, I'd be fine. And you think, well, I don't know if that is actually possible every day. It was just a one-off, probably because of sleep deprivation over a period of time. So I think it's kind of coming back to this idea about what do we actually need and trying to aim for that rather than an artificial idea about what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, I mean, the best tell is your baby, right? So if they're doing 3 30-minute naps, but they're happy and healthy and thriving, then don't stress about it. That's probably just what they need. Looking at the cues that your baby gives you is really important.
You said you work with children who are older as well, up to 12. How would you adapt it for an older child?
Yeah, so obviously with older children, they're not napping. Or if they are, if they're beyond 3 and they're napping, now I start questioning things. Generally, it's more psychological, behavioral. I would say actually by the age of 2, most little ones can self-settle. And it becomes more about a preference and a sense of security. So when you're working with toddlers plus right up to childhood, what you're really looking to do is understand what's causing the anxiety, what's preventing them from sleeping. It's usually about bedtime settling. It's because they feel anxious about being left alone to settle to sleep. And then that manifests in night wakings and wanting to come into mum and dad's bed or wanting someone to sit with them to fall back asleep. And you'll get reasons of fear of the dark. And sometimes it isn't actually fear of the dark. It's just that they can't really articulate yet what it is. And it's that sense of feeling insecure in their own sleep space, in their room, in their bed. So what we're usually working on for children is not rewards and punishment. That's not getting to the root of the issue, because actually that kind of bedtime resistance is usually because there's an anxiety around being separated overnight. So it's actually important to talk through with the child, what does good sleep look like? What would you feel would be successful? If in an ideal world, you would probably be feeling happy and contented and sleepy and all those good things, and trying to build that in with them, bring the child on board with you and talk through like how bedtime's going to look and how you'll support them to get there. It's not an instant fix with children. You can't just say, tonight you're going to go to sleep in your bed and I'm going to go downstairs. That doesn't work. It's a process with them to help them feel that they can be left on their own and that they're happy and they're fine. So that's what I do, is it's very much building confidence and addressing those insecurities so that they aren't insecurities anymore.
As you say, building confidence, learning to support a child who's experiencing anxiety at night, perhaps moving away from it being a negative behaviour that just needs consequences in order to eliminate it, but recognizing that actually underneath that behavior there's a message, and that message may be, I'm feeling really anxious and insecure at night. The answer to how to address that anxiety may not be purely to say, okay, come in with me every single night, because I'm not sure that in the long term builds the confidence as much as it creates a reassurance. And again, families can choose what works for them, and maybe that is how they choose to go to approach it. But it also feels important to me that children have that opportunity to develop confidence and belief that I can cope. I can cope at night. I'm strong enough. I believe in myself. I know mum and dad are nearby. I know that it'll be okay. And I believe that I feel safe enough to be able to work through this without automatically, immediately having reassurance straight away.
Yeah. And I think this comes down to your parenting style as well. And I'm absolutely sure that, it isn't the case in every case, but the cases that I see when I'm working on sleep with children is because usually they've been in a co-sleeping sort of family dynamic. They don't know how to be on their own in their sleep space. They don't feel secure. With co-sleeping and parenting styles, it's done out of love and it's done out of wanting them to feel secure and safe. You do also need to be mindful that you want your child to feel secure and safe apart from you as well. And it's a fine balance. And as I say, I'm sure it's not every child. There's lots of very successfully co-sleeping families that have very resilient children, but they're not the ones I see. The children that come to me, the families that come to me, are because that isn't there, that now needs to be worked on.
So again, you can focus on, within your values as a family, looking at how to build resilience and maybe making choices that maximize that, and having some flexibility in what that looks like. And that sounds, then it becomes quite empowering because it allows everybody to have their personal perspective, but also to include perhaps supporting independence at night to be still seen as a loving choice, rather than a punitive or a negative thing that automatically reduces attachment or makes a child feel more anxious, because it may be that actually it reduces anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. I use a method which is the excuse me method, and it's really effective at this age. You're essentially just popping out of the room for like a second. If your child needs you sitting there all night or like all evening while they fall asleep, just popping in and out of the room, just saying, I've just got to go blow my nose quickly. Just go out, blow your nose and come back. You're introducing that space in a really safe way that says, I'm not leaving you because I'm coming back. I just need to pop out for a second. And that you build on that and you build on that until the point where you get to the point where you say, you've been doing so well with me popping in and out. What I'll do tonight is I'll kiss you night and I'll come back and check on you in 5 minutes. And again, they know that, have that safety there of, oh, they're going to come back and check on me. So it's cool. I'm not being abandoned. So it's a really effective way of working on child sleep, because they have that ability to rationalize and you're not breaking any kind of trust. And there's lots of work to do around that in communication and talking it through. But that's the crux of it. It's about helping them to feel that they can release their parent and that their parent's going to come back.
Just to finish, if our listeners were to take away 2 small ideas from our conversation, some practical tips, choice-based takeaways, what would you hope that those would be?
So I would say, number 1, forget overtiredness. Don't worry about overtiredness. Tired is good. It will help, not to the point where they're really upset, but tiredness is good because it will help you sleep. But also, looking at your own individual child, if you've got a child or baby and sleep is hard right now, just, trust your instincts a little bit. Do what feels right for you at this point in time. And if you want to work on sleep and improve things, then that is valid. And it's okay to want to sleep better yourself as well as for your baby.
Definitely. I would really encourage people to check in with themselves and think, how am I doing? Am I more low? Am I being very hard on myself? Am I struggling with my mood? Am I having anxiety that's really actually quite disproportionate and hard to manage? It's taking up a lot of my energy. And if those are true, then seek support, go and see your GP or talk to a friend or family that you trust, and actually reach out. There's also organisations you can reach out to. Seeking support for that can have a direct impact on sleep, both by improving your mood, which might help balance your child's sleep, and also by giving you the resources to be able to address sleep perhaps in a helpful way as well. My second one is to just give yourself permission to connect and just live a really full life aside from sleep. Don't make it just about sleep. Don't make your sense of parenting be about how's my baby sleeping. Just broaden beyond that and think about what other things matter to me. What do I enjoy? How can I spend time with my baby in a way that feels really meaningful? And I think that's also incredibly important.
Your parenting shouldn't be judged by how your baby's sleeping. You're still a good parent, even if your baby doesn't sleep well.
Exactly that. And I think that's a really good place to close today. So thank you again for joining me. And it's been such a wonderful, insightful episode. Thanks for listening to the Choice Space podcast. I hope this conversation has offered a little more room to pause, breathe, and find your own way forward. We've linked all the ways you can connect with Caroline in the show notes. If today's episode has been helpful, please download, follow, and share with someone who might value the space as well. I'd love to have you with me for the next episode. Until then, take care. Keep making space for what matters most.